Hello and welcome friends. In Indian economy, we were discussing poverty and we had talked about the types, and we had understood through this calculation also the difference between absolute and relative poverty. We talked about the poverty types, and we also talked about three different methodologies used to fix the poverty line, which have been used to fix the poverty line in India. Now let us move over to some other methodologies which are used across the world. For example, this methodology that we are going to discuss today is known as the multidimensional poverty index, and it was introduced in 2010. It was a joint initiative of United Nations Development Program and Oxford University. They together came up with this index to fix the poverty line and to decide who all are below poverty line. This basically is a multi-dimensional poverty index. What do we mean by this? Please understand the earlier indexes, the earlier approaches that you have studied, be it Dandekar and Rath or be it the Planning Commission approach. You would recall that they have basically relied only on the calorie intake, on the food that somebody is consuming. So it's a unidimensional approach. If you talk about Suresh Tendulkar's approach, the one which discussed in the last session, he also talks about, apart from food, he talks about health and education. So in that sense, this approach is not unidimensional, but still it does not include all the possible aspects, and that is why this multidimensional poverty index basically includes other aspects as well, right? For example, it includes health, and to include health, it keeps a track of child mortality rates. Child mortality is how many children die before a particular age, before attaining a particular age, as a percentage of the total children born. So that is what child mortality rate is. Then the nutrition indicators are also taken to create the health sub-index, and nutrition is basically estimated through finding out the proportion of underweight children. Naturally, if somebody is not getting proper nutrition, he or she would be underweight. So just by looking at the underweight children, what is the proportion of underweight children in the overall population of children, we can find out about the quality of nutrition. So basically underweight children, now they become a proxy for the quality of nutrition. So this becomes a sub-index within, this contributes to the sub-index health within the multidimensional poverty index. Another sub-index is education, years of schooling. For example, if a particular family has no family member who has completed 6 years of schooling, then that particular family is considered to be poor, below poverty line. Again, we also look at school attendance. How many children who are in the age group in which these children have to attend the school, how many of them they are out of school? That measure is taken, and that also contributes to this sub-index of education. Fine. Then we also take into account the living standards also, and this is why this becomes multidimensional, because you would recall that if you talk about Suresh Tendulkar approach, you would find that you have health and education taken into consideration there, and also food, which comes here under nutrition. But living standards is one thing which is peculiar to the MDPI, multidimensional poverty index, and here these few aspects are taken. For example, if a particular family is still using cow dung cakes, gobar ke uple, or wood or charcoal, koila, etc. to cook food in the kitchen, then it would be considered below poverty line. Sanitation facilities, if they are not available, what do we mean by sanitation facilities? Proper waste disposal, wastewater disposal facility, drainage system, the availability of toilets, functioning toilets in the household. So they are part of sanitation. So sanitation becomes another parameter to estimate this sub-index of living standard. Then drinking water. If a family has to walk for more than 30 minutes to access some drinking water resource, some potable water resource, then it is considered to be poor. Then electricity. whether the family, whether the individual has access to electricity or not. What about the housing? Does the house have a dirt floor, or does it have a concrete floor or a cement floor? So that also is to be taken into account. And then what about the assets? If a particular household owns any of these assets, it would not be considered below poverty line. For example, if it owns assets like radio or television or a bike or a computer, it would not be considered below poverty line. So this is how this multidimensional poverty index is created. The sub-indices which are there within this particular index are health, education and living standards, and that is why it is known as multidimensional, because it is not only talking about nutrition or food intake or health only or education only, it is also talking about living standards which are getting pronounced in the cooking fuel that a family is using, the sanitation facility that it has, or the access to potable water that it has, or whether it has electricity supply or not. So these things are also taken into account to calculate poverty using this particular approach. Fine. Now, when this particular approach was used, and it was used to estimate the number of below poverty line people here in India, it was found that around 27% of Indian population, and this is the case of 2015-16, when the Indian population was somewhere around 120 crores, 124 to 125 crores. So 27% of Indian population came out to be around 37 crores. So 37 crore people were estimated to be below poverty line when this particular methodology was applied. Right? Now have a look at the poverty estimates as far as India is concerned. Of course, we have got the poverty estimates for different years by different approaches. So we have got the Suresh Tendulkar approach, and Suresh Tendulkar ji has calculated the poverty for 2004-05 and 2011-12, and according to him, earlier 37% of our population was suffering from poverty, but now only 21% in 2011-12. So there was a significant improvement in percentage terms, not only in percentage terms but also in absolute terms. In 2004-05, the population was 114 crore, so 37% of 114 crore becomes 42 crore. Likewise, in 2011-12, the population was 123 crore and 21% becomes 27 crore. So not only there was a decrease in poverty in percentage terms, but it was also a decrease in absolute terms, in terms of actual number of people suffering from poverty, inflicted by poverty. So that number also reduced from 42 crore to 27 crore. If you look at the multidimensional poverty index 2015-16, you would find that 27% of the population were estimated to be below poverty line, and this came out to be around 36 crore. 27% of around 132 crore came out to be 36 crores. And if you talk about the other social scientists which are using their own approaches, for 2018-19, it has been estimated that 35% of the Indian population is below poverty line, almost one third, and it comes out to somewhere around 47 crores. 35% of 136 crore. 136 crore is the population of India in 2018-19, and 35% of 136 crore is 47 crore. So 47 crore is the number of people living below poverty line. Now why I am giving you these estimates? Now these are varying estimates. They differ a lot. They vary a lot. For example, if you talk about Suresh Tendulkar approach, you would find that the figures are very different. Of course, they are reflecting the estimates in different years, but still there is a lot of difference in the figures. So what I'm trying to say is that what is the poverty line, where does it exactly lie, and how many people are below that particular poverty line, or how many are above them, that would depend on the kind of approach that you are using. Fine. So for example, if you are using the Suresh Tendulkar approach, you would probably calculate the poverty line to be a little lower than if you are going for the multidimensional poverty index. So ultimately, whenever you are trying to infer something from the poverty figure, you also have to take into account as to which particular approach has been used to arrive at that particular figure. So for example, if somebody tells you that in India 28% of the people are below poverty line, but the next question that you should ask is, which approach has been used to make this estimate? Is it the Suresh Tendulkar approach, or let's say, just for example, is it the Dandekar and Rath approach, or is it the multidimensional poverty index? Fine. Now that we have understood what MDPI is, and we know that it is a joint initiative by UNDP and the Oxford University, there's another international estimate for poverty which is been devised by World Bank, and they have fixed the poverty line, international poverty line. 2008 it was fixed at $1.25, and 2015 it was fixed at $1.90. But that does not mean in 2050 $1 was around 60. It does not mean that we want to say that the poverty line is 1.90 into 60 rupees. We are not saying that. Please understand why I am saying this. Basically, this international poverty line has been drawn in purchase power parity terms, because otherwise the difference, it would have been difficult for us to understand the difference between the two countries, or to be able to appreciate that the two economies or two countries are very, very different. It becomes very difficult if we set the same poverty line across the globe without any consideration to purchase power parity. It becomes difficult for us to compare them, right? So to compare them, they have to be brought at the same level. They have to be brought to the same scale, and that is what is done under purchase power parity. And how it is done, we'll understand in a little while, right? In 2015, the poverty line was $1.90, but then how do I convert it into rupees, in rupees terms? $1 at that point of time was around rupees 60. Nowadays it is somewhere around 75. So we are taking into account the 2015 prices, right? But this does not mean that the poverty line for India is $1.90 means $1.90 into 60 rupees. It's not like that. Or rupees 114. It's not like that. We are taking into account the purchase power parities also. And what do we mean by purchase power parity? We are basically, parity is equality, trying to equalize the purchase power of different countries. For example, if a US burger is available at $1 in America, and the same company McDonald's comes to India and then they sell the Indian burger at somewhere around rupees 20. Fine. It can be inferred from this data that you will have to spend more to buy a burger in America. Why? Because you know that even if we are talking about 2015, US burger rupees $1 would mean somewhere around rupees 60. So in US, to buy the same burger, you will have to spend more. On the other hand, to buy the same burger in India, you will have to spend less. Fine. And this is how purchase power parity is actually calculated. We try to find out the cost of a burger in the economies which we are trying to compare. So I have compared US economy with Indian economy, and I found out that what I can do with $1 there, and $1 वैसे is equal to rupees 60, but what I can do with $1 in US, I can do the same thing in just rupees 20 here in India. Fine. So if I have to find out the purchase power parity, what will I do? I'll say that $1 in America has the same purchase power as is the purchase power of rupees 20 here in India. So I have tried to bring about a parity in the purchase power. Fine. So just let me ask you a question to understand and to make you understand things better. If I give you rupees 20 and I ask you to go to America, would you be able to buy a burger? You would not be able to. Why? Because the burger would cost $1, which is equivalent to somewhere rupees 60. Fine. And if some American is given $1 and is asked to come to India, would he be able to buy one burger, or would he be able to buy more than one burger? He would get his $1 converted to Indian currency and it would come out to rupees 60, and rupees 60 can buy 3 burgers. So the Indian currency is buying you more number of items, a greater volume of items than the US currency. Fine. So the value of US currency has to be taken into account, has to be reduced while trying to do a comparison with Indian currency. On the other hand, the value of Indian currency has to be increased, because here in $1 or rupees 60 I can purchase 3 burgers. So earning rupees 1 in India is equivalent to earning $3 in earning rupees 3 in America. Do you understand the point? So what I have to do, if I am trying to equate the two, I will have to take into account this fact, take into account the purchase power parity, and accordingly the actual value of this $1 will have to be reduced. Is that fine? So this is what we do while making use of purchase power parity. So basically what I'll be doing now is I'll tell you how to make these purchase power parity comparisons. What we will do, in India rupees 20 is to be spent, while in US you will have to spend $1 for the same burger. So I'll say now that $1, if I have to make purchase power parity calculations, $1 would be considered equal to 20 rupees and not rupees 60, which is the exchange rate, or 75, which is the exchange rate. We are not going to go by that. We are going to go by this, because these two things will be able to purchase the same volume of items. What we can purchase with $1 in American market, we can purchase exactly the same thing with 20 rupees in Indian market. And that is why whenever we have to use purchase power parity terms, we are going to use it, and we are not going to make use of the exchange rates which have been given here. And these are the exchange rates for 2015, right? So now I hope you can understand, $1.9 would not be in Indian currency, its value would not be 114. Its value 114 is because we have taken into account only the exchange rate. We have not taken into account this. So it would not be 114. What would be the value of $1.9 in here in India? It would be rupees 38. 1.9 into 20 rupees, because this was the equation that we got when we took into consideration purchase power parity. Fine. So the poverty line in India in 2015 was not 114, it was basically rupees 38 per capita per day, which means one person earning rupees 38 in a particular day or more than that would be considered above poverty line. Those who are earning less than that per person per day. So average daily salary of one individual, if it is less than 38, he or she would be considered below poverty line. Is that fine? And when this was used to calculate the poverty here in India, it was found that in 2011 around 23% of the people were poor, which comes out to be 28 crore roughly, because India's population at that point of time was somewhere around 114 crore. So 23% of 114 crore would be somewhere around 28 crores. Likewise, it was also found that in 2015-16 there was a further decrease in the percentage of people below poverty line, and only 13.4% of the people remained below poverty line. So this is how poverty line is calculated by the World Bank. So basically what I've said is, even if you're not able to understand the purchase power parity and how to calculate it, you need to know, and you need to always mention this in your notes, that this international poverty line is in PPP or purchase power parity terms. So $1.9 is not equal to 114. If you have to calculate the value of $1.9 Indian currency, don't take into account the currency exchange rate, take into account the purchase power parity equation, and then you will be able to understand that $1.9 is equal to just 38 rupees. And so this is the poverty line that has been fixed by World Bank. So thank you very much for your time.